The social networking giant unveiling a new digital currency. It's called Libra. Facebook will oversee the cryptocurrency, but says Libra will be ultimately governed by 28 founding partners, including Visa, MasterCard, eBay, Spotify, and Uber. Now, Facebook says Libra will be available starting the first half of the next year, and they think it's over 2 billion users will eventually use the currency to buy things or send money internationally. Let's bring in Deek Digital founder and CEO Dave Maney. Dave, good to see you. So do you share McNamee's reservations about Facebook getting into this?
Well, I wouldn't use it. I mean, I share his reservations in that I think they're a company that is so challenged on the privacy front and so compromised on so many fronts of the way that it interacts with its users and its customers, and so kind of deeply drilled into all of our lives and experiences to monetize us, that the idea of kind of trusting the evil empire with my financial assets does not appeal to me at all. That doesn't mean they shouldn't be doing it. It just means that I wouldn't be using it.
David, John Layfield here. Aside from the evil empire, and I'm not going to argue the point about whether it is truly an evil empire or not at Facebook, but the point of cryptocurrencies, central banks become worthless if cryptocurrencies take over everywhere because they can't control the ebb and flow of currency, so they can't control inflation. And that is the case. Why would governments allow this to become pervasive? Won't governments just step in and try to block these cryptocurrencies like they've done in a lot of places in the world if they start to see that it's starting to become used in a widespread way?
Yeah, I look at this as kind of apart from the core Bitcoin notion. Yes, it's based on an underlying cryptocurrency, but fundamentally it is a payments system into which ultimately you're going to have to buy in, right? You can't mine this Libra coin. You've got to buy in some fashion. So, you know, John, in a funny way, there's like this weird analogy to it. It's like they're like digital American Express traveler's checks at one level.
Oh, that's nice.
Where the company takes the money, holds it, and gives you something in return that, you know, that they say you can use. So, you know, yes, you're right. I think the reason that several of the European Union countries came out and said, whoa, wait a second there, Facebook, today, is because they're worried about what you're thinking about. I think it's more of a challenge to the banks, like the big private banks or the big publicly traded banks in the U.S., than it is to the central banks per se.
I think it's an incredibly smart idea. And I look at it the following way. It's a decentralized remittance system and a decentralized payment system.
Right.
If you're Facebook and you're being hammered for privacy, the way to take the other side is go decentralized. I think it's incredibly smart. I also think when we're in this environment of more geopolitical risk, for people to do remittances, this is going to be a better way than cash. So I think it's really smart. I think it's going to be a real growth opportunity. The last thing I would say, this is really not Bitcoin and or crypto. It's backed by a basket of currencies. So this is going to really be having a stable pricing, at least.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you, Robert.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems this is backed by the dollar and the euro and a whole basket of currencies. So it's not like a Bitcoin. It really is more like an American Express check, like Western Union, like PayPal. It seems to me for people who are in these countries that don't have access to banking, for international transactions, that this was going to be a much easier way for them to do it. And I'm not sure what the issue is.
Yeah, here's what I will say. There's always the idea of it's a stable process until the supply-demand goes out of whack in an over-the-counter market like this. So the question will be, if they're only not mining, but if they're only providing X billion, what if you want to buy more and more? Does it stay to that stabilization?
But if you're backed by a basket of currencies, then you're backed by a basket of... Yeah, right. It doesn't matter.
What I think, it lowers the bar, right, and the hurdle for the average individual. Right? That wants to actually increase their understanding of digital currency, cryptocurrency, at the same time play a little, as well as do day-to-day transactions. So I think it makes sense, not only for...
Well, let me tell you, though, there are so many unknowns around this technology and this currency or whatever combination of it is. If you look at this, by the way, there's sort of a masterful kind of manipulation of the spin, right? Like we're not overseeing it. We're setting up a Geneva, Switzerland-based foundation to oversee it. I mean, that's kind of crap. They're building a payment system. Their number one competitive target are the big banks. And by the way, as somebody who's got major family interests on both sides of the U.S.-Canadian border, I can tell you international payments are a ripoff.
Yes,
so they're
they are.
going at something very well. I think they're cloaking it in kind of a coat of righteousness, which, when it comes to Facebook, I do not buy for a second.
Well, we got to leave, but I got to say, one group that hates this idea are district attorneys around the world who realize that they're not going to be able to track money laundering through a method like this, and that scares the heck out of you. You can't follow the money, and that's the key to what makes a lot of district attorneys around the world successful. But we got to leave it. Dave, you got to come back. We're going to talk more about this, I'm sure, once it's up and running.